schedules have been out for a while now. Schedules are where you can set up a schedule of appointments. It's a new booking window for appointment bookings. Okay, so there's going to be a new alert coming to Google Drive about when your shared drive is getting close to capacity. So within shared drive, in fact, I just discovered this from this update, you can have up to 400,000 items, which includes files, folders, and shortcuts as well. There's going to be an update when you approach 80% of capacity or you're 20% remaining. A banner will appear in Google Drive just warning you of that, basically telling you that you're close to reaching capacity of that shared drive. Okay, a small update to usability. So if you're bringing in an image or a shape, and if you're editing that image or a shape, a little window pops up that looks a little bit like this. You have controls for opacity, brightness, and contrast. Google is changing that. So rather than just using the sliders, there's a numerical percentage input as well. Just a small usability update. App script project history, which we've talked about a few times, I think, in the last few months or earlier this year. So you can save up to 200 versions of newly created app script projects. Well, now it's expanding to all scripts, so previous scripts as well. So if you want to go back and manage versions for older scripts as well, you can do that as well. The history on scripts, I just dropped a quick screenshot there. That's what the history on scripts, app scripts looks like. So quite similar to the docs or drive history window as well. Okay, so appearance touch-up is coming to Google Meet. So there's been some updates. There's studio look. You can sort of see there from the GIF, but also there are some enhance your appearance updates coming. You have the subtle control or the smoothing control. I think I would need the extreme control really to help this face. So it's not good enough for me, but they're all sitting there. I did try the smoothing one. It made me look like an anime character. So I'm leaving those alone. You can get me in the raw image. But those are coming to Google Meet if anybody would like to use those. Okay, so these are a couple of updates that Peter just pulled out. These are things that have been announced. Actually, I think these were announced in BET a few weeks ago. So these are going to be coming to the admin console very soon. One of them is a refreshed notifications and device snapshot view. And so this will be a good place to get an overview of everything that's happening within your devices. Obviously at the top here, it's showing Chrome devices. So typically that would be Chrome devices for most schools. But if you're also managing iOS or Android devices, those would come up, and kiosks, of course, would be shown here. There is so as we all know, as we were talking about all of 2023, Google's third-party app controls were, they got much stricter about allowing third-party apps, and you had to approve every app that was being used by under 18s. There's coming better controls now. So if you are a user and you have requested access to an app, you'll actually get your own window where you can go back and see what apps you've tried to access and then request those in bulk. You can kind of see from the GIF what is coming. And then when you're approving those apps, there's a better approval window that's coming as well. It's much easier to see the requests. So that is all coming.
Oh, the other one on that one, James, is teachers can now request apps on behalf of students as well. So rather than having students request, yeah, teachers can request the apps they need their students to use. So yeah, that's the other big update there.
Great. I think you can, Peter, am I right in thinking that you can control the message when a user reaches a blocked app? You can control who sees that message. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so you can customize the message which users see.
Yep. And another one coming fairly soon. I don't know when this is coming out. Is this in open beta, Peter? I'm not sure. Multi-party approvals.
I think it's a closed beta. At least I've not seen it in any domains I manage yet. But I think this is going to be a super useful feature, essentially, for delegated admins on your domain. They will be able to request changes which can then be approved by a super admin. So they could maybe request a change to Drive or Gmail settings, and then a super admin can review that and authorize that request.
I know that actually I applied for access to the beta, and we had access to the beta for this one. Unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to try it out. So Google were asking why we didn't try it out. But yeah, I know it's coming. It is launching fairly soon, because I know the beta was closing recently. Okay, small update to the chat API. I think this is mostly for Google Workspace developers. So if you wanted to bring in message data from other platforms, I think Peter and I were talking, it could be Slack or other messaging platforms. You can now do that. But I don't think that would have effect on most schools. Again, back to app access control, third-party app access controls. Now you can configure access control policies at the OU level. So previously you were restricted doing that at the domain level or at the whole organizational level. Now you'll be able to do that at the OU level. So probably a couple of years ago, email campaigns or email templates newsletter templates came to Gmail. And we've all been using those. You can create an email template, and then you can bulk send from within Gmail. They're now separating that from Gmail and creating a separate template design tool. So you can now create templates and then save those in Drive. They'll have their own specific file type. So once you've created your own templates, you can then, of course, share those with people in your domain. Google Meet hardware update. We'll skip this one. The only time I ever see Google Meet hardware is at the Google office. So we did a day at the Google Thailand office last week, and it's actually really good hardware. I really love the interface, very easy to use, but it seems to be the only people who can purchase it easily are Google. And it's very, very hard to get the hardware outside of that. An update to Google Chat, well, Google Spaces is the ability to, oh, thanks, Niels. Yeah. Yes, Niels, it's not easy to get support for Google Meet hardware globally. I know some countries have better support than others. Okay, yeah, group messages and spaces and Google Chat, they're getting a little update. So now if you see, I'm sure we're all the same. We get into the office in the morning, we open up Gmail, and we see all of the chat messages in those spaces. Well, now you can hover over them and just see who has been recently participating. So without having to open up the chat, you can just see, okay, that could be a conversation I need to be involved in without clicking through to the chat. Just by hovering over, you can see sort of a summary overview of the recent activity in the chat. Small update for Google Calendar lock screen. I've just moved to iOS. So this is a good one for me. And everybody else, most people are probably on iOS. You now can have this updated lock screen widget for Google Calendar. So seeing your upcoming meetings on iOS just became a lot easier to visualize. Quick update to Google Slides. If you're putting an image into Google Slides, you can now quickly remove the background as shown there. Oh, actually, yeah, this is a good one to mention. So I should add to that, this is only available to Gemini Enterprise and Gemini Business. Something to be aware of. There's the odd feature, which is going to be put into Gemini, so Google's AI tools, is not going to be widely released elsewhere. So just something to flag on that. Update to enrolling user enrollment for managed iOS devices. We'll leave that one there. I'm not sure how many people are managing iOS through Admin Console. And again, we'll skip this one as well about co-host support in client-side encrypted meetings. Paul, as promised, this one, actually, no, not yet. Coming to it soon, Paul. We'll get there soon. Drop-down chips in Google Sheets. When you type in @ the @ sign and DR, it will recommend the drop-down chip. And when you do that, it's now actually going to recommend different configurations for your drop-down. So it could be a priority one, it could be yes or no, it could be project management. So rather than having to go through and enter all of the different drop-downs that you want, it will come up with some recommendations, some pre-configured options. There's been another update to the chat space management tool for admins. You now have the ability to add multiple members or groups, review settings and details. So they have been adding options. I know there's been a lot of complaints from schools about managing chat spaces. It does appear that they're continuing to update the controls that admins have for chat spaces. So it's good to see that development. So now you can add multiple members, you can review the space settings, and you can review the invited members as well, all from Admin Console. Google Sheets now has smooth scrolling, really useful if you've got any rows or columns which are very long rows or very wide columns, as it were. So smooth scrolling is coming, just making it easier to navigate Google Sheets. So this is a really useful one, the improvement to how videos are going to be played from Google Drive. So any school that is sharing video and they don't want to use YouTube, often those videos are housed within Google Drive. The problem is Google Drive, it's always been a little stuttery or a little slow to play that video back. So Google's changing how those videos are delivered using something called, and I'm not going to pretend to understand this, dynamic adaptive streaming over HTTP. Sure, there's somebody smarter out there than me that understands the transcoding behind this. But anyway, it should improve the time with which it takes to play the video. So typically when you hit play in Google Drive, it pauses for a few seconds. This should improve that. This is very app specific. So Google Drive app, just improving how search is handled within that. We'll just pass over that one. Paul, this is the one for you. Long-running queries within connected sheets. So last year, Google extended the timeout time from 5 minutes to 10 minutes for BigQuery and Looker. So this is when you post a very complex query and it takes a longer time. Timeout has been increased to 20 to 30 minutes, and connected sheet users, so if you're using connected sheets to interact with BigQuery, you'll see a status of your query and you can cancel it as well. So if you see that, oh, wait a sec, that query is going to take a very long time to perform, then now you can actually have the ability to cancel it within connected sheets. Yeah, Laurie, I saw you put your thumbs up. It's definitely one for you guys there. Google has announced a new product, and I'll just very briefly mention this. This is for schools which don't have Education Plus or Education Standard, but they want to manage devices using Google. Google has a new license to enable that. So I think we'll leave that there. It really doesn't apply to many schools, I think, that we're talking to. So if a school is on Education Fundamentals, but they want to manage Android devices or iOS, then you can actually use something called the Endpoint Education Upgrade. If you'd like any more details about that, feel free to drop us an email. But again, this would not apply to any school on Google Workspace Education Plus or Standard, because those management tools already come within those licenses. Okay, Google's updating how Google Meet handles one-to-one direct calls. So they have enabled one-to-one calling within your network, so within your domain. You can tap on somebody and create a video call with them. Yeah, and that's coming to Google Meet on mobile. I think similar to, if anybody used Google Duo, which was one of Google's many communication apps, which enabled video calling, which has gone away, of course, but it would be similar interface to that. So you can select somebody within your network and perform a one-to-one call. Okay, this is for everybody out there using Android devices. which I'm sure is not many people at the moment. But they are bringing annotations to Google Docs. This is a real shame, because for about 12 months, I had an Android, I had a Samsung Fold phone, Android-based with a stylus, and the screen cracked twice, so I no longer have that. It's a real shame. But if you are on Android devices, you can now use a stylus, or I guess your mouse, to annotate over Google Docs. If you're on other platforms, you'll be able to view those markups, those annotations, but you can't create them. Currently, this is only happening within Android. And if you notice, what I noticed, if you can see from the little image there, the pen tool looks suspiciously very much like Jamboard previously. So I wonder if that's where they've parked some of those features. Maybe this will come to iOS in the future and more widely across different platforms, but for now it's only Android. Again, this slide is just detailing the different ways you can create or view. Different platforms can see the markups. Just move past that. Okay, it's an open beta now. Groups admin role can be assigned for both security and non-security groups. Okay. We'll just leave that one. And again, this relates back to the one that we talked about earlier, where you hover over a space and it will show the avatars of people who are participating in that chat. It's now actually going to get part of that activity. When you hover over, it will pop up and you will see chats which are more relevant to you. So it'll be easier to see replies and conversations which are more relevant to you by showing those avatars. There's a couple of different places you would see that. So you can hover over a chat in the Gmail window, or if you're actually within a chat space and you see there's been replies, you will see the avatars of the users that have been replying to that thread. Okay, update to importing sensitive Excel files, which and then using client-side encryption. Again, I think we'll pass that. Not many people are using that. Okay, it's an update to smart chips within Google Docs. It's basically just updating. It's suggesting, creating suggestions for your smart chip. So if you start to enter a smart chip, it will use Smart Compose and completion and so on, just to help recommend different chips that you want to insert. So you'll notice that when you're using smart chips within Google Docs or Smart Canvas. Okay, this is so if you have people participating in a meeting, both perhaps in a hybrid meeting, some people are online, some people are in a conference room, you now have the ability to check into the meeting from the green room. So everybody in the conference room can check into the meeting so that everybody who is joining the meeting online, they can see all of the participants in that meeting. Okay, again, another one here for developers. The Google Meet API is generally available. So if you want to programmatically create Google Meet calls, for example, you'd be able to do that. You've probably seen this now for the last 3 or 4 weeks. This was popping up for the longest time about the new interface for signing into your Google account. It kept popping up for me for 3 or 4 weeks, and I finally saw the new sign-in window. They just modernized the interface for the sign-in window. And there it is. You've probably seen it now. Okay, so I think we talked about this about a month ago. Google has, obviously its AI offerings have been renamed from Duet to Gemini. Just flagging this, that Google will be announcing an AI product for education next month. I was told it was completely NDA and embargo, and then Google openly talked about it last week. So there's nothing available publicly at the moment, but if you are interested in exploring Gemini, formerly Duet, if you're looking at those tools, there will be an official announcement probably by the time of this call next month. And if you want to get a peek or to understand what that might look like, I would suggest looking at Gemini Business. So Google now has two models. Gemini Enterprise replaces Duet. So that's every AI feature, including some of the admin stuff. Gemini Business will be a pared down version of that. And so if you look at the feature set of Gemini Business, that would be a good model to see what may be coming to education. It hasn't been announced yet, but I think Gemini Business would be the one to look at. Again, Google said it was all NDA, and then they talked about it publicly, so I don't know. We'll know more next month.